Programming language. Computer systems should have programs to provide various services for users. The programs usually are made by programmers. The programmers should have programming languages to make programs. There are various programming languages available, and programmers should choose a suitable language for their usage. Then, let's learn programming languages. Programming language. A programming language is a vocabulary and set of grammatical rules for instructing a computer to perform specific tasks. The term programming language usually refers to high-level languages, such as C, C++, Java, Python, and so on. Each language has a unique set of keywords and a special syntax for organizing program instructions. High-level programming languages, while simple compared to human languages, are more complex than the languages the computer actually understands, called machine languages. Each different type of CPU has its own unique machine language. Assembly language and fourth-generation language 4. Lying between machine languages and high-level languages are languages called assembly languages. Assembly languages are similar to machine languages, but they are much easier to program in because they allow a programmer to substitute names for numbers. Machine languages consist of numbers only. Lying above high-level languages are languages called fourth-generation languages, usually abbreviated 4 gallons. 4GLs are far removed from machine languages and represent the class of computer languages closest to human languages. The choice of programming language. Regardless of what language you use, you eventually need to convert your program into machine language so that the computer can understand it. There are 2 ways to do this. Compile the program, interpret the program. The question of which language is the best is one that consumes a lot of time and energy among computer professionals. Every language has its strengths and weaknesses. For example, Fortran is a particularly good language for processing numerical data, but it does not lend itself very well to organizing large programs. Pascal is very good for writing well-structured and readable programs, but it is not as flexible as the C programming language. C++ embodies powerful object-oriented features, but it is complex and difficult to learn. The choice of which language to use depends on the type of computer the program is to run on, what sort of program it is, and the expertise of the programmer. C. C is a high-level programming language developed by Dennis Ritchie at Bell Labs in the mid-1970s. Although originally designed as a systems programming language, C has proved to be a powerful and flexible language that can be used for a variety of applications, from business programs to engineering. C is a particularly popular language for personal computer programmers because it is relatively small. It requires less memory than other languages. The first major program written in C was the Unix operating system. And for many years C was considered to be inextricably linked with Unix. Now, however, C is an important language independent of Unix. Although it is a high-level language, C is much closer to assembly language than are most other high-level languages. This closeness to the underlying machine language allows C programmers to write very efficient code. The low-level nature of C, however, can make the language difficult to use for some types of applications. C++. C++ is a high-level programming language developed by Bjarne Stroustrup at Bell Labs. C++ adds object-oriented features to its predecessor, C. C++ is one of the most popular programming language for graphical applications, such as those that run in Windows and Macintosh environments. Java. Java is a high-level programming language developed by Sun Microsystems. Java was originally called OAK, and was designed for handheld devices and set-top boxes. OAK was unsuccessful, so in 1995 Sun changed the name to Java and modified the language to take advantage of the burgeoning World Wide Web. Java is an object-oriented language similar to C++, but simplified to eliminate language features that cause common programming errors. Java source code files with a .java extension, are compiled into a format called bytecode. Files with a .class extension which can then be executed by a Java interpreter. Compiled Java code can run on most computers because Java interpreters and runtime environments, known as Java Virtual Machines, JVM, exist for most operating systems, including Unix, the Macintosh OS, and Windows. Bytecode can also be converted directly into machine language instructions by a just-in-time compiler, JIT. C#. C# is pronounced C#. A hybrid of C and C++, it is a Microsoft programming language developed to compete with Sun's Java language. C# is an object-oriented programming language used with XML-based web services on the .NET platform and designed for improving productivity in the development of web applications. C# boasts type safety, garbage collection, simplified type declarations, versioning and scalability support, and other features that make developing solutions faster and easier, especially for complex and web services. Microsoft critics have pointed to the similarities between C# and Java. Object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming, OOP, is a programming language model organized around objects rather than actions and data rather than logic. Historically, a program has been viewed as a logical procedure that takes input data, processes it, and produces output data. The programming challenge was seen as how to write the logic, not how to define the data. Object-oriented programming takes the view that what we really care about are the objects we want to manipulate rather than the logic required to manipulate them. Examples of objects range from human beings, described by name, address, and so forth, to buildings and floors. The first step in OOP is to identify all the objects you want to manipulate and how they relate to each other. Once you've identified an object, you generalize it as a class of objects and define the kind of data it contains and any logic sequences that can manipulate it. Each distinct logic sequence is known as a method. A real instance of a class is called an object or, in some environments, an instance of a class. The object or class instance is what you run in the computer. Its methods provide computer instructions, and the class object characteristics provide relevant data. You communicate with objects, and they communicate with each other, with well-defined interfaces called messages. The concepts and rules used in object-oriented programming provide these important benefits. The concept of a data class makes it possible to define subclasses of data objects that share some or all of the main class characteristics. Called inheritance, this property of OOP forces a more thorough data analysis, reduces development time, and ensures more accurate coding. Since a class defines only the data it needs to be concerned with, when an instance of that class is run, the code will not be able to accidentally access other program data. This characteristic of data hiding provides greater system security and avoids unintended data corruption. The definition of a class is reusable not only by the program for which it is initially created but also by other object-oriented programs, and, for this reason, can be more easily distributed for use in networks. The concept of data classes allows a programmer to create any new data type that is not already defined in the language itself. Simula was the first object-oriented programming language. C++ and Java are the most popular object-oriented languages today. The Java programming language is designed especially for use in distributed applications on corporate networks and the Internet. Summary 1. Visual Basic is a programming language and environment developed by Microsoft. Based on the BASIC language, Visual Basic was one of the first products to provide a graphical programming environment for developing user interfaces. Instead of worrying about syntax details, the Visual Basic programmer can add a substantial amount of code simply by dragging and dropping controls, such as buttons and dialog boxes, and then defining their appearance and behavior. Summary 2. Although not a true object-oriented programming language in the strictest sense, Visual Basic nevertheless has an object-oriented philosophy. It is sometimes called an event-driven language, because each object can react to different events, such as a mouse click.